Hey guys, Dylan here, and this is Club Spin. Today we're going to be talking about Don't Make Sonic Political. It's just going to be the usual people today, Danny and Dumbsville, and I hope you guys are ready for this conversation.
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh boy.
Okay, so
Who's
I
ready?
guess I guess I'll start with the opening statements. Here recently, due to the riots that have been going on, I'm not calling them protests, I'm calling them riots. Due to the riots that's been going on and due to a bunch of people just being politically active thanks to all the way back to 2016 when everyone started getting politically aware. People have been trying to force brands to be politically active. And I personally don't agree with this. I don't think that a brand should be politically active. If a person associated with the brand wants to be politically active, I'm fine with that. Do it on your own account, do it on your own accord. But I don't think Sonic the Hedgehog, Wendy's, or the Colonel from KFC should be telling me anything about Black Lives Matter. I think that's ridiculous.
I fully agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spitting facts.
So, what do you have to say about this as your opening statement, Dumbsville?
So I think like you said, I think that if you are an individual content creator or an individual person and you want to discuss these riots, I think that's okay. Um some call me Johnny. I know he's been discussing it, and I think that's fine. If you are an individual, that's fine. But with people like TSSZ recently, specifically, I think that by I think that first of all by just discussing it on a public platform that is a Sonic branded platform, I think there are multiple issues with that. First of all, I think that you are unintentionally uh, you are allowing children to see things that are very graphic, like news footage. And I'm not saying don't educate children on what's happening right now, but there are some things you shouldn't show kids. I don't know if you should be showing violent graphic riots on a Sonic Twitter account.
I wouldn't really go the care for the children route. The thing that I would say is it's like unless there's that armless fucking Antifa Sonic guy there, there's no reason to be making Sonic news talk about this.
Right,
It's
and
not
that's my
Sonic related.
that's my other point too. I feel like it's ridiculous to make this so off topic. Even actual brands that aren't fan accounts are doing a way better job at bringing awareness without being without just flat out saying anything. Um, Sony delayed the PS5 event by saying there are more important voices to be heard. It's vague, but it gets to the point. You know what they're talking about. It's quick. It's to the point. They don't show you anything. They go, "Hey, you do your own research. You do your own thing. We want these voices to be heard, but they did it professionally. But a lot of these Sonic accounts that are saying, "Oh, get Trump out of office," and just are straight up saying it, that's not very professional, especially when you seem like you're doing a lack of research on what's actually going on.
One of
You
my
know,
big problems is that for the accounts that are straight up saying Black Lives Matter, they don't realize or don't care that when you put out hashtag Black Lives Matter, you're not only just using the hashtag, you're supporting the movement of Black Lives Matter. And that means that you are supporting the good and the bad things that movement has done. And I would rather not have Sonic the Hedgehog or some Sonic the Hedgehog fan related content associated with a group that sometimes, not all the times, assaults people, sometimes, not all the time, vandalizes buildings and shit. I'd
certainly,
much rather not have that happen.
there's certainly a radical side to it with all movements, but this one in particular, there is definitely a radical side, and I think you hit it right on the head. I think that while there are definitely good intentions, and I can't say, I don't want to say I know everything because I'm the whitest fucker but like I think that um I think that it's not appropriate for Sonic accounts to bring up these super political divisive movements. It's just not the time and place for that.
Okay, Danny, what do you have to say?
What was the question again? About companies
It's
doing it,
no,
or
no,
about
no.
like the
This
actual
is just
image of Sonic?
your opening statement. Like, how do you feel about the whole subject of Sonic being political? Just this is your opening statement. Say whatever you want to,
Well,
involving it.
if you make something political, you're basically choosing a side, and so like no, like even if it's like a good movement, like I think the overall idea of Black Lives Matter is the intentions are good, but again, like Dumbsville said, there are going to be radicals who take things too far. So when you take like a cartoon character and you politicize it, then you are saying that you're with a side, and then again, like Dumbsville said, you are supporting the good and the bad they do, and then you're shutting out other people who like probably don't really feel not connected to the movement, but like people who don't really want to go all out and support it because of the bad side of it.
Okay, now for the second thing that we should talk about is that some people will bring up the Archie comics or the Fleetway comics, and they'll talk about the in-world politics that the characters show, like talking about rising up against Eggman or fighting against the oppression of Robotnik. And I guess that'll be our second talking point. My stance on this is that in every instance in the Sonic comic, it's either been Sonic dealing with a magical wizard or Sonic dealing with a round egg-shaped man with his robots powered by small animals. I don't think Sonic has ever had a stark position politically. I don't think they've ever pandered to any side in history. I don't think they've ever tried to take a current movement and portray it in Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's always just been the vague, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, help the good guys fight the bad guys. I don't think Sonic's ever put a strong fucking word down for one side or the other in history.
I think that people need to stop looking into Sonic the Hedgehog like it's a serious political thing and stop using big words like Sonic is anti-authoritarian and look at Sonic for what it is. It's a blue fucking cartoon hedgehog who fights a big fat man and his robot
For the
army.
people who say that, they're wrong too, though, because in Sonic Forces, Sonic listens to the military. In the Sonic Archie comics, Sonic serves under the king and eventually becomes the king.
And in the movie, he's with a police. He teamed up with a police officer.
Yeah, Sonic's always been for authority. He's against oppression. He works with the authorities all the time in multiple continuities. If you want to count the Waku Waku Sonic Patrol car, he's even been a cop. Sonic is not against all authority. Like, he's not against authority as a whole. He's not a anarchist. He believes in political systems. He just doesn't support ones that hurt people.
That's a very good point, because even if you pretend like Sonic isn't a cartoon hedgehog and try and take him more seriously than he should be, it still falls apart. Because, like you said, Sonic is against oppression, but everyone's against oppression. It's the same for Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and any other fantasy.
Usually when it comes to Sonic, he only fights the oppression that's directly affecting him. Like, if someone's fucking with his friends, then he'll stand up for them. If someone's doing something to him or his country, then he'll stand up for them. But I've never really seen Sonic go out and pick a fight against somebody. If someone's off in a different region doing their own thing, I don't think Sonic chases after them. Usually Sonic is reactionary. Someone does something to him or his friends, and then he has to react to that.
More importantly, it's just overall blue cartoon hedgehog. Stop taking it seriously.
I mean, that's true.
I've had people tell me that Sonic is this anti-authoritarian and Sonic is this environmentalist figure. Shut up. They're saying that Sonic was anti-corporate. He was made for the sake of corporatism. He's a marketing character made with 90s attitude.
Well, if they want to go for anti-corporate, he fucking worked with Uncle Chuck and his chili dog stand. He worked with multiple businesses throughout the different continuities. I don't even think that's a fair comparison. Like, if they really want to get autistic when it comes to, like, what Sonic is, I can tell you each version of Sonic the Hedgehog and why that's bullshit. Sonic doesn't like the system? Well, in the Sonic fucking manga from the 90s, he was actually going to school. He was part of the fucking system. Like, there's a fucking version of Sonic for anything.
I think what people need to do once again is stop taking Sonic so seriously. and just leave him out of politics.
I think
If
people
you
need to realize that he's in a fictional world. That's not our
are-
world.
that's very true. That's very true. What people need to do, they need to like calm down about this whole thing, because like the issue is like people are making Sonic what he isn't. If you need a cartoon hedgehog to motivate you, get you motivated about a real world, morally gray political issue, then you need to go to a therapist, because you can't separate fact from fiction. You need to be motivated about a political issue on your own accord, not because you think Sonic told you to.
How do you feel about this, Danny, though, with people saying that Sonic has always fought against oppression in his own universe?
I mean, Sonic has fought against oppression, but it's not. Well, it's like what you guys were already saying. Like, he's sometimes with the cops, he's sometimes a king. Like, he hasn't got a solid political stance that is consistent. And like, I don't agree that. I don't think that every cartoon out there should avoid politics, because there are obviously things like X-Men and stuff that deal with political issues.
I've talked about that.
Sonic itself shouldn't.
Well, I've talked about that too, funny enough, and that's going to be one of the questions later.
Okay.
The politics that both SatAM and X-Men deal with are in-world politics. You can say they represent anything in our world, but in universe they still mean what they mean. Like, Sonic was persecuted in the Archie comics for being a quote-unquote furry. You could say that represents the oppression of black people. You could say it represents the oppression of Jewish people. You could say it represents the oppression of anything. You could say Sonic fighting against Robotnik to free his world, and SatAM represents people fighting against Trump, against any world dictator. It's vague, and it's like in its own little universe, so you can take that and use it to represent any real world thing. But the difference is that both X-Men and Sonic don't name like real factions. They're all imaginary villains. They're all imaginary heroes. They're not actually throwing real world politics into it. They're saying this made up group is being oppressed by this made up enemy. Like, they're not trying to paint anyone as the bad guy that actually exists.
I mean, the only difference is, though, X-Men is that there are human characters, so like when
Yeah,
you
but
see a
the
human
religious
character being
groups they're
oppressed,
in.
you can sort of see it as more of a political thing than a hedgehog being told by a human being, "Hey, you're a furry," you know?
I can
Like
get
that
that.
seems like an animal versus human thing.
I can get that, but even in the X-Men, the religious groups that persecute the mutants don't actually exist. Sometimes it's Baptist Church, sometimes it's Catholic Church, but the names they give out aren't real things.
Isn't Professor X a Catholic in the books? I know Magneto's Jewish.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though. It gets way deeper than what people give it credit for. And that's why I don't like the whole X-Men I don't like the whole X-Men allegory, and I don't like using Sonic SatAM as an example, because it's deeper than what people think, and they don't actually take sides. They don't paint white people as the bad guy. They don't paint religion as the bad guy. Some religious people do bad things, but they never take a firm stance and say this is bad.
I think the overall message people need to realize is that the world isn't the rebels versus the dark side. You know, it's the world isn't that. The world it can be influenced by that, certainly. That's how art is. You write what you know, but what people write, what people intend for, what the artist intends for might not be what the people interpret it as. And what people need to realize is that the world isn't Frodo Baggins versus Sauron. The world is it's gray. It's different shades of gray. It's not black and white. It's different shades of gray. And that's the issue. People need to realize that, and people need to. There are things that are really bad, obviously, in this world. That's a fact, you know. I would be like, obviously the Nazis in the 40s. That's a bad thing, no shit. But if it's like something like what's happening now, yeah, the officers who use unnecessary force, really bad. But the people who are breaking laws and looting small businesses, that's also bad.
Yeah, I think when it comes to groups like the Nazis, those are like one of the few examples that you can just put in any media, and it's fine.
Right.
Because everyone knows the Nazis are bad. I don't care if the Nazis did like 2 good things in World War II, like some people will say. I don't fucking care. They're bad. They're bad guys. If you want to put a Nazi in your story and have him be the bad guy, good on you. But what's happening in America is far more gray, and there's good and bad people. I wouldn't try to say that Sonic should take a firm stance on what's happening in America.
A blue cartoon hedgehog.
But in that same right, I wouldn't say that something like a Nazi should exist in Sonic's world. Like, Sonic's world is nothing like our world. I don't think we should try to muddy this bright, optimistic cartoon world with our real world fighting and politics. Like, why would you do that? Sonic is supposed to be a bright, happy, optimistic character who fights against a mad doctor who wants to make a fucking amusement park. Like, why would you try to make that about U.S. politics?
That is spitting facts right there. That is some damn good facts.
I think people forget that Eggman's end goal is not to destroy the world, it's to make a carnival. That's always his end goal. He wants to make an amusement park. He's done it multiple times.
Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors.
Like, Eggman's not a Trump-like figure. Eggman has no end game. All he wants to do is fucking kill people and make a carnival. He doesn't have any end game. He doesn't know what he's gonna do if he wins.
He's a one-dimensional bad guy made for bad guys' sake.
Yeah, he doesn't have any motivation. Every time they've tried to give him a motivation, he goes back on that. Like, one game he acts like he's shocked because Gerald Robotnik would blow up the moon, would blow up the Earth. And then the next game he acts like he doesn't even care if something, like, kills the Earth. So I don't know. It seems like you're looking for something from a franchise that isn't going to give it to you. They're expecting too much from the Sonic the Hedgehog fandom or Sonic the Hedgehog as a brand.
Right.
And I think Forces is to blame for a lot of this, because Forces really took the whole Freedom Fighter thing and tried to make it canon. And with that, because of how vague it is, retards on Twitter will always take that to mean whatever oppressive force they think is fucking holding them down, that means Sonic would fight against it. And I'm like, I don't think you guys realize. Sonic fought against Eggman in Sonic Forces because Eggman fucked with him and his friends. Sonic wouldn't care about Donald Trump being your president or him tweeting fucking stupid shit on Twitter. Sonic isn't the bastion of fucking anti-racism. Sonic isn't like the pro
fucking hedgehog.
I know, he isn't like the fucking hero of the West. He's a blue hedgehog who likes to eat chili dogs and help his friends. That's it.
I don't know about that. I think Lightning McQueen's pretty pro Antifa, so I don't know what...
I think it's stupid that people want to assign this shit to Sonic, acting like Sonic would give a shit. When in media, he's never given a shit. He's never fucking fought for these causes. In every Sonic continuity, Sonic fights for himself and his friends. If you're not fucking with him or his friends, chances are he's not going to fight for you.
Have you seen the people on Twitter who are, like, bringing up cutscenes from Shadow the Hedgehog and trying to make that political?
Are you talking about how the creatures are called black creatures? How the comic is called the Black Comic?
How the military.
It was a joke.
Well, people were comparing the military scene in the beginning where they're all shooting at Shadow because they're saying that Shadow is meant to be like a black character.
But he worked in gun in the very next game.
They're using that to show that the police are shooting at a black character. That's not the point.
The reason why that doesn't work in universe is Shadow may have helped save the Earth, regardless of what the president said. There's no way he could have gotten that photo with him and Sonic. But for the most part, Shadow has been seen as an enemy. He robbed places to steal Chaos Emeralds. He framed Sonic, the hero of the world, for doing crimes that he did. Shadow the Hedgehog blew up the moon and tried to blow up the Earth. Shadow the Hedgehog was an enemy of the people and deserved to be targeted, and he was associated with the Black Aliens and Black Doom.
Well, the whole point in that Shadow the Hedgehog cutscene is that he is attacking the planet. Like, that's why they're shooting at him.
Yeah.
In that opening cutscene.
And the gun commander isn't shooting a hedgehog, Shadow the Hedgehog. He's not trying to kill him because he's black. He's trying to kill Shadow because he was on the Ark.
He thinks he killed Maria because the government told him he killed Maria.
It's not a race thing. It's like, that's a motivation thing. There's no race thing.
Shadow's not human. Shadow's not human. He's Mobian and fucking black arms. He's not human at all. So to fucking call him black is ridiculous. And if you want to call him black, He's a known criminal who has framed multiple people for his crimes, and he's murdered like plenty of people. Like, why the fuck would you want Shadow to represent black people? Like, that seems like the guy you wouldn't want to represent black people. He's known for carrying guns. Like, why the fuck would you want him to be you? He's a thug who steals vehicles. Why the fuck would you want Shadow to represent you as a race? That's asinine. I think that's reaching.
Dude, like, thank you. Yeah, I agree with that.
So, do you have anything you want to say on that, Danny?
What, on the Black Shadow thing?
Yeah, the Black Shadow.
I mean, I'm the one who started.
I know.
I'm the one who started it, so I think what I said at the beginning is pretty much how I feel. Just like,
anything you want to add to
fuck?
that, Dumso, before we switch to reading the Twitter comments?
I think that you just spit a bunch of facts, so I have nothing else to say.
The sad thing is like a lot of the shit people are saying on Twitter, if you actually knew Sonic the Hedgehog, you'd know why all this is bullshit. This doesn't even make sense in universe, and that's the sad thing. Okay, Alex Hedgefox asks, what do you think of politics in the Sonic comics? Penders making Rotor gay in 25 years later, that has nothing to do with anything. Flynn wanting to make, who fucking cares? We're not talking about Flynn. You ruined your chance. You ruined your chance, Alex.
Oh, we're skipping him?
Yeah, he ruined it. Bye-bye, Alex. Okay, Kaku Sucker asks, why Sonic started becoming political. I guess only in the last 5 years, but slowly got ramped up this year. I know 2020 is cursed, but not like this. Maybe it was before 2014, 2015, but I joined the fan base. That's not a question. I guess, why did Sonic become political? I'd say that people have been trying to make Sonic political ever since 2016. 2016 onward.
People want him to represent their side, and they're trying to look deep into it. They want Sonic to be more intelligent than he is, but really, stop looking too deep into something and have fun. Okay.
It's the fan base that are applying the politics to Sonic. It's not actually Sonic itself.
Now, some of the people that are doing this shit are people who don't even know Sonic. Like, there's a couple fans doing this, but I've seen news reports come out from places that don't even, like, know Sonic, and they're fucking saying this shit. Okay, Cynical says, who in the community do you think contributes to making Sonic political? TSSZ.
Yeah,
TSSZ was a good example to that.
And it's not even like, I didn't mention this in my personal video on the situation, but like, TSSZ has hinted at Sonic being political for a little bit longer than like this article. Like, I remember that in their Forces review, they said this game mirrors what the world is like. No, it doesn't. It's TSSZ has kind of always tried to do that, but it's not until recently when they really went way too far with it.
Dragon Superfan says, why does a cartoon like X-Men the Animated Series get to make analogies to the civil rights movement if it's supposed to be a kid's show? And I've already answered that. It's okay to do stories that are based off of real world things, but if you take that and contextualize it to be an in-universe thing and not use real-world factions or politics, it's fine. It's the second that you start saying BLM. It's the second that you start saying George Floyd. That's when it becomes a problem to me. If you want to do stories like this, find a reason in lore to do it.
There's a difference between writing what you know and forcing in politics.
Yeah, don't propagandize. Take that real-world incident and adapt it into the universe. Don't fucking, like, my main problem is taking real-world shit and putting it into the cartoon. If you want to make an incident in the cartoon that's based off of that, go ahead. People have made allegories to World War II a lot.
Star Wars.
Yeah. It's hard to find something that wasn't inspired by World War II in some way, at some point in time. I think it really just matters how you adapt it, and if you adapt it. Evilbot says, do you think people like Ian Flynn and Ken Penders started the trend of turning Sonic political, and if you would know how to bring the political issues into Sonic? I already said that part, but do you think Ian Flynn and Ken Penders started the trend?
I don't.
When they started it.
I think like it depends. I don't think that like I don't think that Ken Penders and Ian Flynn influenced fans, because the majority of the fans that are being political, they probably are pro Flynn people and probably hate Ken Penders. You know?
Yeah, I don't think the comics had anything to do with this at all.
I feel like
I wouldn't say they started it. I'd say that people just reference them because they think they started it.
I do think that Ken Penders and Ian Flynn have kinda more Ken Penders have contributed to it, but I don't think that they're the reason that Sonic's being politicized.
Mm-hmm.
I called out
think-
Penders for one of the things that he got caught doing, where he took like Holocaust poems and then fucking replaced it with echidnas and dingoes. I'm like, that's insensitive. You shouldn't fucking do that. That is wrong. Don't fucking do that. It's okay if you want to make the dingoes represent Nazis and make the echidnas represent Jewish people. Just don't bring the real world shit into it, like actual quotes and actual fucking statistics and shit. Just keep it a kid's cartoon.
Right.
Nitro says, thoughts on the TSSZ situation yesterday and people that are now leaving because of it. I guess that was before it got shut down. So what are your thoughts on the whole TSSZ thing altogether?
Pathetic.
Yeah, I've already made a video on it saying that it is pathetic and distasteful and absolutely stupid. Shameless plug, but watch my video if you want to know more of my thoughts on that. But I think that no matter what side you're on, it is insensitive to compare real people dying and real laws being broken and real police brutality to fictional hedgehogs fighting mad scientists. I think that's insensitive. I think it insults, like, like I said in my video, it's like you might as well be pissing on the grave of George Floyd and say you are watering the flowers. That's what it's like.
My thoughts are Tristan is a crybaby.
Yeah.
Marcos Flores says, if the Tails hoodie was up for sale, how many of them would you buy? I would buy, like, at least 2 of them. One for me and one for Taylor.
I'd buy one for me.
I'd buy 0 because I'm broke.
I know that's a rare piece of merchandise, so I do want it. Zorbus Mage asks, are you aware... Oh, I guess we already read that one. Frederick asks, can Sonic just stay away from real-life politics? It should be easy, but people don't make it easy. Blake the Runner asks, what are some advice for people who want to write stories for a family-friendly audience that involves life and keep the political statements to a minimum?
I would say, like what we've been saying throughout the whole video, where you don't actually include real situations, but you create situations that are similar to the real world, but like, you know, like don't do actual things like real names, real people, because otherwise it can come across as insensitive and you look like you're picking a side. But if you just make it like an inspired by a real event, then it can reach out to more people and it can still teach the same message.
It will be a while till we get to this in the comic, but I do plan on taking some political stuff and put it into the comic. But the difference is that when I'm talking about people being persecuted for being different, it's going to be the Jackals because of what Infinite did, so they're being persecuted for it. I'm going to be talking about people who actually agree with Eggman and want to support Eggman. I'm taking like things that are based off of real political stuff, but I'm putting it through the lens and putting it through the in-world continuity of Sonic the Hedgehog rather than trying to make it about the things that it's actually based off of.
It's making it vague and exploring the Sonic universe more than the Sonic universe exploring the real world, and I think that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, I say expand the universe, don't bring our universe into Sonic.
Exactly.
Do you got anything you want to say to that, Dunzo?
I've already said what I needed to say.
Okay. Xpool asked, do you think people protest in New York when Classic Sonic is inevitably confirmed in the next modern Sonic game?
It's Classic Sonic Lives Matter.
Okay.
No.
Will you support the franchise if Sega decides to make Sonic political?
No.
I don't think I would.
I'm I'm not sure.
I guess
People
I
can
would.
turn away.
I guess I
If
would
people
still follow the old shit and talk about the old shit, but I wouldn't talk about the new shit anymore after that.
If
Hmm.
people Ghostbusters because of that reason, I'd leave the Sonic franchise for the same reason.
Knight of Waste Bear says, "Listen, I'm black, but even I know this is ridiculous. It's awful what happened, and my prayers go out to the family. But I know I just find the Black Lives Matter thing a bit too much. That's not a question. That's a statement. So fuck you."
I do think. Whoa!
No, fuck
I
you.
do think.
I said ask questions. That's not a question. That's a statement.
I do think that I do think that does bring up though. Like I think that it is good to come from that angle. I mean, it's not a question, but I do think it's interesting that he comes from that angle.
Well, next time follow the fucking the tweet. I said questions. Professor Mediocre asks, Dylan, you mentioned in your Lunatic Leonard video that getting into politics was yourself was a fucking terrible thing you did. Could you possibly elaborate and give some examples of what happened? Back in 2017, I think it was, or 2016, I left the Sonic community and started becoming a commentator. And when I was in the commentary community, I talked about all the shit you would expect me to do, feminism, Black Lives Matter, all of that shit. And it was just really boring, really fucking divisive. Like, everyone fucking got mad at me. Everyone hated me for my political views. And no one ever fucking just wanted to listen and have a nice conversation. Everyone just wanted to be right. It was fucking annoying, and I hated it. And it was through stupid people who refused to even do the bare minimum amount of research into the things they were arguing about, and instead were just saying, you're wrong, that made me leave the commentary community. Because I'm like, wow, these guys are actually retarded. I'm not going to continue talking to them. I'd rather deal with the people in the Sonic community than the pseudo-intellectual retards that made up the commentary community. And that's why I've fought my hardest to not make Sonic political, because when anything turns political, it turns into a bunch of fucking pseudo-intellectuals fucking sitting around huffing their own farts and ruining the fun for everyone. That's all I gotta say on that. So that's all of our questions. There's no more questions left, so I guess we're moving to our final thoughts. What's your final thoughts, Dumbsville?
Don't make Sonic political. Have fun.
What's your final thoughts, Danny?
You can keep teaching like children and families political messages using fictional politics, but don't ever use real politics in things like Sonic.
Yeah, I would say that. If you want to make Sonic political, figure out a way to work the politics into Sonic's real world. Don't into Sonic's world. Don't try to take our real world and put it in there. So I guess. Oh, okay, go for it.
I do want to say this, and I just remember this now. If you want, people have been asking about like, if people want to spread awareness about these issues, where do they do it? You know, or aren't these people justified in spreading awareness? I don't have a problem with necessarily spreading awareness, but I do have a problem with like when it comes to people like TSSZ and Sonic Hedgeblog. If you are a Sonic News account, I think that like you should that if you're trying to keep a professional image, you should have a personal Twitter account for stuff like that.
Yeah.
People like call me Johnny. He's an independent and he can do what he wants. But if you are a Sonic News account, you should.
Or just a Sonic account in general.
Just do what someone like Sony did, where it's be vague. Say there are more important voices that need to be heard by now, but do your research. And if you don't want to do your research, be vague and let people come to their own conclusion. All right, that's what I think people should do.
I guess following up on that, I would say that that if you have a branded account, I don't think brands should have a stake in anything. I think that if you start making the brands talk out, it seems like propaganda. And I wouldn't want to push propaganda onto people. That just draws people away from the fandom and splits the fandom even further. Just stop making Sonic political. And this title of this episode is called #Don'tMakeSonicPolitical. If you want to tweet this out on Twitter, use that hashtag, please. It'll draw attention to this. I want everyone to know how many sane people are left in the Sonic community that just want to enjoy Sonic for his own lore, his own stories, his own world. and that we don't want this stuff being brought into our community. So hopefully you guys like this video. If you like it, like it. If you really like it, share it. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and bye.
Peace out.
Love you.